Who that to the Who That Nation? Welcome to the Dome Patrol podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and we have arrived to week 8 of the NFL season, and our New Orleans Saints, who currently are 2-5, will play a AFC West opponent for the third consecutive week this Sunday in Los Angeles as they face the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 3-3 on the season so far in SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. This game, Saints are coming off of a somewhat of a mini bye, having last played last Thursday in the Superdome against the Sean Payton led Denver Broncos and losing that game big, 33-10. The Saints look to bounce back. They look to salvage their season. And if there is any glimmer, any hope left in the New Orleans Saints doing anything in the 2024-2025 NFL season, it starts this Sunday. This is really is put up a shut up time now. This is it. This is truly it. There's no point trying to chase numbers and see what Tampa is doing, what Atlanta is doing, or who is 8th in the NFC. Who can we jump to get that final playoff spot? It doesn't matter. If the Saints don't handle their business this week, it's no point. It's no point thinking about a postseason. We're just along for the ride for the rest of this regular season. And it's the sad truth. It's hard enough trying to claw our way back at 2-5. 2-6, it's virtually impossible. It's virtually impossible because you look at the rest of the NFC and look at the teams who are dominating this conference. Now, with the exception of, I would say, the Detroit Lions, who looks phenomenal. Detroit looks like the team to beat. Aside from that, it really isn't that dominant, but teams have gotten such a head start on the Saints right now. It'll have to be a complete collapse by these other teams for the Saints to have a shot. Because I look at a division like the NFC North, right, with which the Detroit Lions are in. You look at the North, you have Detroit, you have Minnesota Vikings, and I know they just lost this past Thursday night against the Rams in a controversial fashion. It's kind of funny. A little side note here. Don't you find it funny that the refs always get involved or miss a call involving the Rams late in the game that costs the other team the game? Because it sure happened this last Thursday night. I felt so bad for them because I know exactly where they're at. Well, not exactly, because it didn't cost them a Super Bowl. So they can scrap up and play next week like nothing happened. But in our case, we missed out on the Super Bowl. Anyway, I don't want to open up those old wounds, but that's besides the point. Minnesota is still a good team, decent team. Green Bay is a good team. Green Bay is going to be around, coming playoff time. And you can't sleep on the Chicago Bears for some strange reason. I got a funny feeling about the Bears. Now, that's all 4 of those teams that's in that division, which tells me what? You have to win your division in any other division, especially in the South. You're going to have to win the division because not 2 teams not coming out of this division. If things continue on the path that they're going and how dominant the NFC North is right now. Now, it's early on. We're not even at the midway point of the season yet, so I know what you're saying, Kevin, relax. I understand. I get it. I'm just saying, as it stands right now, that's how it looks. Now, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I've seen crazier things. But one thing that do need to happen, Saints need to turn the corner. And the Saints, they did make some moves around this time. No, not the move that we all wanted to make by firing Dennis Allen. No, that didn't happen. And let me talk in on that a little bit. When we left off last, when we talked about the Saints here on the Dome Patrol podcast, I was so adamant about it. And I'm not changing my stance on that, but I was so adamant about Dennis Allen being fired. And I knew he wasn't going to get fired. Mickey Loomis told us he's not firing this guy. There's no way it's going to happen. If it does happen, it's going to be at the end of the season. It won't be in season. It won't be during the season. And so we can kill that noise. Now, if this team turns it around and starts to put up a little bit of an effort and still miss the playoffs, Dennis Allen would be back next season. As long as this team continue to quote unquote fight, he'll be back. The only way he won't be back if the Saints finish 2-15. That's the only way he won't be back. And now I seriously doubt the Saints go 2-15. But at least, well, let me put it like this. I don't see that happening. Is it possible? Yes. If they play like they played the last couple of weeks, yeah, they will end up 2-15. But right now, I think the Saints have a golden opportunity to turn this season around and try to salvage something out of it. I know it's at the expense of my blood pressure, because if the Saints turn it around and actually do something, that guarantees Dennis Allen returning. I understand that, but the Saints in me, the Saints fan in me, the who that in me, I cannot not cheer for this team. You know what I'm saying? I can't help but hope, wish, and pray that this team come out triumphant. But it has to start this Sunday. But before we get to this Sunday, Saints made some pretty significant moves. We know coming out of that Thursday night game against the Broncos, we lost one of our biggest weapons in Rashid Shaheed for the season. He is out on IR with that what was it, an MCL or ACL? One of the CLs. He is out. And that was devastating. No, not in that game. We lost him the game before. I apologize. We lost him in the oh God, who we played before? The Broncos, the Chiefs. The Chiefs. Yeah, we lost him in the Chiefs game, which I don't know why he was still in the game when he got hurt, but whatever. And so we lost him. We know that Chris Olave was out with a concussion. Saints had nothing. Saints went out there last Thursday with nothing. It was so frustrating to watch that team out there. It was so frustrating. And it was frustrating because I'm a Spencer Rattler fan and I want him to succeed. And they're not giving him a chance, with the talent around him. Now, I say it's not their fault. They don't have it. They don't have the talent. All the talent is gone. And so he's out there trying to make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what? So it's tough. It's seriously tough. Well, the Saints went and signed Marquez Valtrez Scantling, and he is a wide receiver. He's a Super Bowl champ. I remember looking at the headline when they said that the Saints signed him, like Super Bowl winning wide receiver, and I'm like, that was like 2-3 years ago. But it wasn't like he was the hero of that game. He's a all right receiver. He's decent. Nobody is at least defensive coordinators are concerned. Opposing defensive coordinators, they're not shaking in their boots because the Saints signed him. They're not. He's just a body out there, and so I'm not too excited about that signing. We did need a receiver. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy that they did get a receiver, but I think more effort should have been used to try to get better quality of receiver. And that's no disrespect to Scantling, but I just felt there were better options out there for the New Orleans Saints. But it raises the question: what you got rid of A.T. Perry for? Eh, I still don't get that. That is the biggest head scratcher that I could find. It's like they had it out for A.T. Perry. They did not want him on the team. But whenever he got on the field, the dude produced. I don't understand it. Yeah, the Saints failed A.T. Perry. They did. But that's besides the point. Hopefully it'll work out with our new addition. We shall see. Another bit of news that happened over the week. Saints came to terms with their star running back Alvin Kamara, extending his contract by 2 years, and this pretty much guarantees Alvin Kamara will finish his career with the team he started it with, the New Orleans Saints. And I'm of two minds of the thing. I'm super happy that Alvin Kamara got his money. He's happy. You know, it wasn't a big money, highest paid contract, but he's happy, and that's all that matters. Where I'm kind of like with it, it's where are we going with this running back thing? Now, did I want Alvin Kamara to go? No, I don't want him to go. But at the same time, you got to look at it from this aspect. What's the most valuable piece to this team that is tradable, that you can get some actual value for? The only thing is Alvin Kamara. That's that's the only piece on the board that you have worth anything. And so you're fighting from behind, and the Saints have a tendency of giving these. I heard somebody describe it as lifetime achievement award contracts to these players. You know, they get up to a certain age, and you know they're past their prime. But the Saints will give these contracts to these players like a thank you. God knows, I thank them too. I love them. If you ever wore a Fleur de Lis, I loved you. You know, while you was here, I loved you. But it comes a time when you really got to cut bait, man. You got to cut the cord. You know, God bless him, Cam Jordan. He's stealing money right now from the New Orleans Saints. Let's be real. And I love Cam Jordan. I love him. Love everything he's done, not only on the field, but off the field in New Orleans. You know, he's a huge help in the community. You know, he does some marvelous things. And he's a funny dude. He has a charming personality that you can gravitate to. I mean, everything about him is money, except his play on the field. I mean, he's lost a step, and it's Father Time, man. It's not his fault. Father Time gets us all. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today, in fact, how because I have to cut my grass, and I also have to cut my mom's grass, so I got to cut 2 yards a week. You know, no matter what, and not get paid for them. But that's neither here nor there. So I got to cut these 2 yards every week. And no, back in the day, and I say back in the day, you know, 3 years ago, it wasn't nothing. You know, I fly through them both. I used to cut them both in one day, like it wasn't nothing. And now I gotta separate it. You know, I gotta I gotta cut the front, then maybe stop, cut the back tomorrow, and then do the process over again and do a 2 day cut with my mom's grass. You know, it takes almost a week to cut 2 yards because I'm getting to that age, you know, that I'm just, my body can't do what my mind is telling it to do. And so, Father Time then hit me. Yeah, Father Time hits these players. Not only Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, another player who I am a fan of, not only on the field, but off the field. Amazing human being, Demario Davis. Oh, an amazing human being. On the field, in his prime, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. You can put him up against anybody in the NFL in his prime. We're past that. It's just not there anymore. But they got these contracts to whereas it's like a thank you for your contributions to the team type deal. And it's hurting the team because you're kicking the can down the road. That's why every year the Saints wind up in these 100 and something $1 million over the cap thing, and they got to work it here, restructure here, and cut people here that we shouldn't be cutting, but we restructuring over here. And yeah, Mickey Loomis, he's a genius with the money, rejiggering the money. But it's not, is it really genius? Because all you're doing is kicking the can down the road that we got to address it the next year. And every year it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually you're going to have to cut bait. Eventually you're just going to have to say, forget it, and blow it up and just start from scratch. And the Saints need to do that. they do. I don't know when. I don't know when or how, but it needs to happen soon, because eventually it's going to get to the point where we're back in the 80s. We're back when Jim Moore was on the team, the coach of the team, and we couldn't get nobody on this team. Why? Because we don't have no money. We couldn't get anybody to come play for New Orleans. You remember them days? I do. Nobody wanted to come play here. The only way Saints got players here, we drafted them. The free agents weren't happening. It wasn't happening. And so we're going to end up getting in that place again. Not because players don't want to come here. It's because we can't afford them, quite honestly. So I don't know, man. But in the grand scheme of it all, I'm happy for Alvin Kamara. I am. He still has a lot left in the tank. Father Time hasn't gotten him so much yet, but I can tell you injury bugs has gotten him a lot. And that's from day one, to be honest with you. So I really can't fault him for that. But I will give it to him this year. He's playing with some injuries that normally he would have sat. He would have been out. The broken ribs, the hip, the broken hand. I mean, he is out there giving it his all. I give it to him, But my goodness, man. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what that means for Kendre Miller, what that means for Jamal Williams. Even though I think Jamal Williams gone. They can't afford that. That's too much money wrapped up in the backfield, and especially with one of your backs you rarely use. So yeah, I can see him leaving. But Kendre Miller, what that mean? What's his role going to be? I mean, so many questions, but we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. Now, the Saints will be playing the Chargers this Sunday. Chargers are coming off a short week. They just played this past Monday against the Arizona Cardinals in a pretty hard-fought game. I went to sleep on it because it was so late, but they did lose that game 17-15. But it's a short week, and they have a lot of injuries in key spots. Now, Saints have a lot of injuries too. We're going to go over the injury report leading into this game on Sunday. But Chargers, I'm not going to say they're just as injured, but they have a lot of key players out. As a matter of fact, let's jump into this injury report. This is the injury report for Sunday's matchup between the Saints and the Chargers. We know quarterback Derek Carr, he is doubtful. He's been listed as doubtful, but I think he is truly out for this Sunday's game. Cedric Wilson Jr., wide receiver, he is out for Sunday's game. Also out is Nick Cerveri, the offensive tackle. He is out, and we know that our two injured reserve players, Paulson Adebo and Rashid Shaheed, are out for the year. But there's some good news, people. It isn't doom and gloom. I actually have some good news when it comes to the injury report regarding our New Orleans Saints. Cesar Ruiz, he was a full participant this week in practice. Lucas Patrick was a full participant. Pete Warner, he's been out a few weeks now. He was a full participant in practice. Connor McGovern, we just signed him a couple of weeks ago, center. He went out as soon as we signed him, but he was a full participant this week. Chris Olave, he's been dealing with that concussion for the past couple of weeks. He was a full participant this week, as well as Kalen Saunders. He was a full participant. And here's the juggernaut here. Here's the biggie. Taysom Hill, tight end, gadget player extraordinaire, full participant in practice this week. He is expected to play. And Marshawn Lattimore, that hamstring, he was a full participant as well. So we are getting players back. So it feels a little better. You can kind of take a breath. I'm encouraged by all that news, because man, it was looking bad for a minute. Like, my God. After a while, I was standing by the phone waiting on a phone call to come out there, put on the pads for them because they didn't have anybody to play with. But the San Diego Chargers, they do have a few injuries that are concerning for them, especially on the offensive side. They have two tight ends who are questionable this week, Haydel Hurst and Will Disley. Count them, three wide receivers are out. Well, two are out. One is doubtful. The doubtful one is Lad McConkey. He is doubtful or questionable, I should say. DJ Clark Jr., we should know him fairly well. He formerly played for the Carolina Panthers. He's on IR, so we won't be seeing him. And doubtful is Quentin Johnson, their other wide receiver. They're in trouble. They're in trouble with that. But when you're going up against the Saints, that don't mean jack. Well, let's go over our season leaders, starting with passing. We have Derek Carr, still a leading passer for the New Orleans Saints. He is 90 of 128 pass attempts, 989 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert, 107 on 164 pass attempts, 1,164 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, and only 1 interception so far this season. Rushing leaders for both teams, Alvin Kamara, of course, 111 carries, 438 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And for the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins, 95 carries, 478 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Leading receivers. Our leading receiver is out for the season, and that is Rashid Shaheed. 20 catches, 349 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The Chargers' leading receiver is McConkey with 24 receptions, 265 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And he is questionable for this Sunday's game. Let's go over the stats, season stats, the NFL rankings, I should say, for both teams going into this game. Of course, the records, the records. Saints are 2-5. The Chargers are 3-3. Scoring average. Here is the ranking. Saints are 11th in the league on scoring average, averaging 25.3 a game, to the Chargers 26th ranked scoring average, 17.8. Opponent scoring average. This is where it gets disturbing for the Who Dat Nation. The Saints are 26th in the league with opponent scoring average, averaging 25.7. For the Chargers, they're ranked first. They only allow 13.8 points per game. Yeah. That's pretty frightening. Total offense. Saints are 21st in the league. The Chargers are 25th in the league. Rushing offense, Saints are 19th. Chargers are 18th. Passing offense, Saints are 21st. The Chargers are 24th. Total defense. My God. Saints, 32nd. Dead last defense in the National Football League. The Chargers are 7th. Rushing defense, Saints are 28th. Chargers are ninth. Passing defense, Saints are 28. Chargers are ninth. And turnover margin, Saints are 10th in the league with a +2. Chargers are third in the league with a +6. Total touchdowns so far this season, Saints have 21 touchdowns to the Chargers 9. Penalties, Saints have 41 penalties this season. Chargers have 34. My predictions for this Sunday's matchup between the Chargers and the Saints, it's going to be a close game. I don't see the Saints being blown out as they have been in the past couple of weeks. Honestly, this is a pick'em game. I really don't know. Honestly, and I can't. It's not the who that in me. It's not the black and gold running through my veins that is preventing me from making the prediction. I honestly don't know. Honest to God. And the reason I don't know is because I don't know where this team head is. And now, if this team can sense the desperation, see the gravity of the situation, that this is a must win. They must win this game. That it is do or die in this game and come out here and ball, the Saints will win. But if the Saints give the piss poor effort that they've given, especially on defense, the last couple of weeks, they're going to lose. Plain and simple. They're going to lose. Now, I will say it is encouraging that the New Orleans Saints have a lot of their pieces returning this week, especially Taysom Hill, Chris Olave. That's great. And so that's going to be a big help, and especially a big help for Spencer Rattler, who is expected to start yet again this week. Because I would love to see him with the full arsenal of the Saints the Saints offense, and really get a gauge as to what we have there. And so that's going to be key. How they utilize Taysom Hill. Is Taysom Hill 100%, or are they rushing him back? I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll have to wait and see Sunday. Chris Olave, I think Chris Olave is a major piece, especially when it comes to Spencer Rattler, because they didn't get a chance. He only threw one ball at Chris Olave, and that's the ball that he ended up getting concussed on trying to catch it. So he looked a little flushered after that. That's how Bud Means started to eat, because he couldn't go nowhere else. And so we shall see. We shall see. I guess if I had to pick, I'm going to go with the Saints. I'm going to lean towards the Saints because we're getting some pieces back offensively. Maybe we can put up some points because we haven't been able to do jack on offense the past 2 weeks. And it's been embarrassing. I mean, completely embarrassing. Defensively, my God, man, people. I mean, and for them to get up there in the interviews and talk about how they haven't quit, people don't know what they're talking about. We haven't quit. Here's what they got to understand. And I'm talking to the Saints players and coaches. They need to take that built-in excuse and run with it. I would prefer you quit. That you quit trying. Then you actually try. Because if that's you trying, we got deeper issues. Because I mean, think about it. That poor tackling, no gap containment, no gap discipline, nothing working on defense. You can't stop the run. You can't stop the pass. You can't stop nothing as a defense. So I'm giving you that you quit. As ridiculous as that is, as embarrassing as that is, I would accept that. But if you're going to sit here and tell me y'all giving it y'all all, and that's what y'all displaying, we got deeper issues. And so I don't know what switch can be turned on or turned off, whatever, on defense. to make a change, but they need to switch it. They need to click it, press it, do whatever, because this is embarrassing, man. I never watched the Saints defense look that embarrassing. You what year that was when Sean Payton was suspended, and they had Steve Spagnuolo that year as the defensive coordinator, and we had the worst defense of all time. Statistically, we gave up the most yards and all this here, and they quickly fired him as soon as Sean Payton came back. His first order of business was to fire Steve Spagnuolo, only for him to go to Kansas City and win 4 Super Bowls. But that's not the point. The point is, this defense should be your bread and butter, Dennis Allen. It should be your bread and butter. Matter of fact, that's how Dennis Allen came back to New Orleans, because they fired Steve Spagnuolo and they hired Dennis Allen as the defensive coordinator to replace him. So it's funny how things work that way. But in any event, keys to victory, if we're going to obtain victory this Sunday, this is a tough defense statistically. I haven't watched a full Chargers game. Like I said, I tried to watch that game on Monday night, but it came on so late I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I watched the first half and I was done. But for the little I saw, it is a good defense, a really good defense, and statistically is a great defense. So it's going to be hard to get anything going on the ground, through the air, wherever. And so it's going to rely on Spencer Rattler probably getting out of his comfort zone and breaking the pocket, doing some running, get the defense off the hill, give them something they haven't seen, something. Something got to change from what you've been doing the last 7 weeks. Or should I say the last 5 weeks? Because the first 2 weeks of the season, of course, it worked to perfection. But these last 5 weeks have been night and day. So whatever you've been doing, switch it up. Switch it up. And you had extra time to prepare. These people are coming off of 4 days of practice and rest after playing Monday night, late Monday night, may I add. We haven't played since last Thursday. We ought to be rested. We ought to have a game plan together. And for the love of God, we should win. But there's something in me telling me we're not. But I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm praying I'm wrong, because I really don't want to go through this again. I don't want to go do a disastrous season, which is already starting on, but this will pretty much cement it. I mean, if you think about it, if the Saints lose this game Sunday, they would virtually have to win out every game. They would have to beat every other opponent that steps in front of them the remainder of this season to have a chance at a playoff. So it almost got to do that now anyway. You know what I'm saying? Let's just look, and I don't like looking ahead, but let's just play devil's advocate here. Let's look at the remaining portion of the New Orleans Saints football season. Now, this is my little layout that I had predicting the season. Now, I had the Saints at 10-7 this season. That was my prediction. So that means the Saints will have to go 8-2 the remainder of the way in order for me to hit on my prediction. So, I don't know how that's going to play out, but let's see. We have the Chargers. Now, according to my prediction paper, we win this game. Because I also had us winning against the Broncos too, but that's neither here nor there. But we win this game. Next Sunday, on the 9th of November, we travel to Carolina for our second matchup against the Panthers. Now, I had us winning this game. And, so, you would think logically we will win it again, being as though we put up almost 50 points on them people. But I'm still not confident with that. But I have us winning that game. After the Carolina game, it's the revenge game. This time in the Dome, we play the Atlanta Falcons. And I had us winning this one. Remember, I said that we were going to split with Atlanta. So there's no shock up to this point. So we lose the first one, which happened. Now this time I had us winning. Let's see what happens. After the after the Atlanta game, we have the Cleveland Browns. Now the Cleveland Browns, and this is in the dome, but this also has some emotions involved because Deshaun Watson, we don't have to deal with. Deshaun Watson is out for the year with I think Achilles, so he's out. Who's his replacement? None other than J-Bo. Yes. Yes. Jameis Winston. He will be returning to the dome to face the New Orleans Saints with his Cleveland Browns. I had us winning that game, but at this point, you got to ask yourself, can the Saints go on a 4-game win streak until the bye? Because that's our last game before the bye. And so we have 4 games left before the bye. If the Saints can win these 4, that will bring their record to 6-5 at the bye. Now, I don't know. Now, in that little mix there, I can easily say we lose to Atlanta again. Easily. And like I say, I'm not 100% confident about this Sunday's game against the against the Chargers. And so that's a little iffy. But I think the Saints can win that game. It's just a matter of will they win that game. But aside from that, the only other game that I see where the Saints could drop would be the Atlanta Falcons game. They can beat Cleveland. But yeah, I don't know. But we shall see. All right, after the bye on December the 1st, the Saints will play another LA team, the Rams. And the Rams just win dirt. You know, they just win ugly. You know, they won ugly the other night, but they win. So that's going to be a tough game. We always play that game tough against the Rams. But on my little prediction, my preseason prediction paper here, I had us losing that game against the Rams. And I kind of feel that way right now. After the Rams games, we have the New York Giants. We should win. We should beat the Giants. If we don't beat the Giants, it is a serious problem. But we should beat the Giants. Then we have the Washington Commanders. I had us losing that game in the preseason prediction, and I have us losing that game right now. The Washington Commanders, really good team. Jaden Daniels looks amazing. I think he got hurt last week, though, but I don't think it was serious. But they still look like a good team. Defensively, they look good. I think Dan Quinn over there right now, and Dan Quinn is a heck of a coach. And so that's going to be a tough out. After that, you have the Green Bay Packers, who I mentioned earlier in the show. That's going to be a tough one. And honestly, I had us marked down to lose, and I'm standing by that. That may be another loss for the New Orleans Saints. Then you have the Las Vegas Raiders coming to the Dome. I had us losing that game, but I think we're going to win that game. I had us losing that game in the preseason prediction because of the emotional attachment involved with Dennis Allen used to be the coach. Derek Carr used to be the quarterback there, and they're going to come out and try to prove something against them and mess up and lose the game. And that was my prediction. But the Raiders look horrible. They look like the worst team in football right now, aside from us. So we should win that game. And to finish off the season, of course, it is none other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the second time. I had us winning that game in the prediction. I don't know. I don't know, because Tampa's in trouble too. Tampa lost Mike Evans and Godwin in 2 drives back to back almost, it felt like. So they lost their 2 biggest weapons last week in a loss. So Now, by the end, I'm pretty sure somebody will be back, if not both, and probably can bounce back before then. But that's two big losses for them. Hopefully the Saints will be healed up by then, maybe, and that plays a factor in some of these games decisions as well. But yeah, I think the Saints are going to finish 7-10 this season. Going by what I just read, they'll be 7-10. It's they put themselves in too big of a hole, and I look back at the Eagles game. I look back at the Atlanta game. I look back at the Tampa game. It's just unnecessary. It's unnecessary that we're at this point right now. Yeah, they put themselves in a bad spot. But who knows? They could go on a run. Doubt it, but they could go on a run. But before we get to all that, the Saints must handle business in LA against the Chargers this Sunday. Like I said, I'm gonna give it to the Saints, out of pure who that ism, but I'm not 100% confident. All we can do right now is just wait and see. But I would love to know your predictions for this Sunday's matchup against Chargers in LA. Do you think the Saints will bounce back there, or will they continue on this losing streak, which is currently at 5 this season? I would love to know your predictions. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, subscribe, if you will, to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube, and like this video if you don't mind. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this preview of the Saints versus the Chargers Week 8 matchup. Don't forget to catch me after this Sunday's game goes final as we recap and react to the Saints' quote-unquote victory against the Chargers right after the game. Oh, man, I can't wait for this game. I'm excited. It feels like it's been forever. It feels like the Saints hadn't played in like 2-3 weeks. It feels just those little extra 3 days threw everything off for me. But I'm happy that the Saints are playing. Hopefully, I'll be happy to watch them play this Sunday in SoFi. But until then, I'm going to be screaming to the top of my lungs, "Who dat?"